spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we are here to tell you guys about some interesting things.
Indeed, we are. I'm pretty excited this week. I'm going to be covering a weird mystery location that has some ghosts and stuff like that. Robin, what are you going to be covering this week?
I'm going to be covering something that probably inspired the Candyman.
Really?
Yeah.
That's super exciting to hear, and also terrifying because that movie fucked me up when I was
Really?
a kid.
Did it actually mess you up?
I used to leave the cabinet open, like when you go into the bathroom and you like have the medicine cabinet with a mirror on it. I used to open that so I wouldn't have to look in the mirror for like weeks after I saw that movie.
I didn't watch that movie until like a couple months ago, so...
Really?
Yeah.
It was pretty scary when I was a kid, but I think I saw it when I was like 7 or 8, so... Yeah, that'll fuck a kid up that's that young for sure.
All right, cool.
So, right on. For those of you who are looking forward to hearing stories that you have submitted to us, we read those on the Storytime episode, which we record at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesday. You can watch us at youtube.com/Scaryish or twitch.tv/Scaryish podcast. If you don't want to watch us live, well, that stinks because it's a whole lot of fun, but they do come out every Friday, so that's what you should be looking forward to. However, this is a topic episode, so we're going to be doing a topic. Robin, for folks who want to send us their stories, where can they reach out to us?
So you folks can send us stories at storytime@scaryish.com. You can also go to our website, scaryish.com, and there's a contact us page. You guys can fill out that whole form, and we'll get emailed the story that way. You can also reach out to us on social media. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have a whole bunch of different stuff. So, yeah.
Yep, lots of you folks like to reach out to us those different ways, and we're okay however it works best for you. Right on. So that said, I'm going to move into the first topic of the evening. And this week, I was very conflicted on the topic I would cover. I will be very honest with you folks. I had the urge to go over what is happening currently in this crazy little world of ours. But after some discussion with Robin, we both agreed that if I were to talk about COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus, it would probably be more of a PSA than anything else, and that could be done separately, like in a separate maybe YouTube thing where I just go over like safety information and general information, trying to take out like the scary aspect to it, because let's be real, it is scary-ish. And it's definitely weird to see entire countries on lockdown, something like that. It's something that's never happened in my lifetime. And I don't think it's happened like to this degree in a century. So it's a subject that would be handled with care. And I don't want to make it a topic episode because I'm not about sensationalizing anything. But at the same time, I don't want to stretch any information out. And I'll probably wind up doing something entirely separate. That said, my inkling originally had been to cover a haunted location. And I think I found just the one. And it will officially mark the second Lighthouse that I've ever covered. The first Lighthouse was back in like episode 7 or 9, I can't remember which, and that was the missing lighthouse keepers that someone out in Hollywood listened to the episode and they decided that they're going to make a movie of it that has William Dafoe and the new Batman guy, Robert Pattinson. I think that's the only thing he's ever been in prior to that as well. So he's not famous for anything else but the Lighthouse and the future Batman movie coming up. And Tenet with Christopher Nolan that's also coming out. I
just can't believe that just a little while after you went over that episode, it was like, hey, BT Dubs, we're making a movie about this topic.
It was like a
so
year.
Crazy.
They totally listened to it. They wrote a script up based off of my suppositions, and they decided they're going to move forward with it. And I'm totally okay with that as long as I get that dirty money 2020. But that said, I'm moving on to a new Lighthouse this episode. So without further ado, I present to you wonderful folks, the Seguin Island Lighthouse. And I'm sure there's a million different ways to say that word, Seguin. I listened to a bunch of pronunciations, and Seguin was the one I was told is how it is said regionally, where this island is located. And as you can probably guess, this topic will be about a lighthouse on Seguin Island. And it is an island that is tiny off the southern coast of Maine. And when I say tiny, I mean tiny. It's about 1/10 of a square mile. So it is very, very small. It's like 2 miles out into the ocean. And the lighthouse itself is directly next to the lighthouse keeper's house. It's a really nice looking house. Like, it's 1.5 stories tall, made of all brick. It's been around for a long time, so there's a lot of history in the house.
There's a lot of history down that road.
Not bad. We almost jinxed. You owe me half a Coke. The house also happens to be attached to the lighthouse itself. It's not just next to it, it's literally attached, and I get this information from the U.S. Coast Guard's website, which has information on like
Interesting.
every lighthouse in this country, which is really interesting. The lighthouse itself is pretty standard. It's 53 feet tall, 16 feet in diameter, so it is one of those cylindrical lighthouses like you saw at the end of How I Met Your Mother. It actually kind of looks just like the one at the end of How I Met Your Mother,
right.
where I'm pretty sure that's where he proposes to the mother.
I don't
in
remember.
the final season. But it's nice. It's like all brick or granite or whatever. It's painted white, and the top is like black. It's pretty picturesque, and there will be pictures up on our Instagram if you would like to see it. It is at the highest point on the island, making it, I believe it's the second or the highest lighthouse in Maine, and then it's the second oldest lighthouse in Maine. I'm pretty sure I'm correct about that. Yeah, highest lighthouse in Maine, elevation-wise, second oldest in Maine, which is just some general information that's fun to know. The keeper's house at this point, though, is a museum/gift shop, kind of like the entrance to the Winchester. For all those folks that went with us to the Winchester, shout out to every single one of you. We love you. And anyone who's been to the Winchester previously knows that it's like you have a gift shop that then leads into this like historical place. And like I mentioned, it's the second oldest, meaning it is really old. A group of merchants requested that it be built way back in 1786. So a long-ass time ago.
Yeah.
It took until 1795 to get greenlit for the project to start by some guy, and I'm going to butcher his name, but I believe the pronunciation is George Washington. Yeah, I think I got that right.
Get out of here.
For serial, it was the first president of the United States of America, George Washington, who greenlit that this lighthouse be built.
It wasn't a different George Washington?
It's the first president,
Okay.
This one, that George Washington. It was completed in 1797, and the total cost of the project was $6,300. And in case you are wondering, $6,300 then would be $128,985.50.
That's not that bad.
It's not that bad, and it's shocking when you look at the inflation graph, how steady everything was until like 1978, 1980, and then inflation has just gone buck fucking wild. I can't imagine today the stock market crash of like over 2,000 points would have helped the dollar, but who the hell knows, man?
I was watching that down number today. I'm like, holy shit.
I was like, I'm not checking my portfolio. It'll just be a sad face.
What portfolio?
Yeah, I know. It's it's kind of cool,
We don't
though.
have stocks.
We have some stuff. You just don't know about it.
I
It's kind of
do?
cool. I have stuff built like as a backup plan, so just I'm not telling you about it because I don't want it to be rated for another trip to Japan.
I have miles.
Anyways, it's kind of cool that we have so many ways to measure things right now, but one thing that I think would be able to be measured even back then would be something like pretty vital to the creation of a lighthouse, like to the determination of if it's needed, and that would be how much fog does an area get. All you need to do is like mark down how much fog you got in a day, like keeping a log, which isn't like based off technology, it's just based off of like how much you're around the area, and there are numbers based off this. So Seguin Island, despite being small, I'm pretty sure I just changed how I pronounce the island's name again.
Okay.
Every year it has 2,734 hours of fog. And
Wow.
to convert that, that's 114 days in a year are fog days.
That's insane.
That's just slightly under 1/3 of the year.
That's
this island
really
is spent
depressing.
covered in fog. No shit, right? Like, this is literally like 32%, so just under 1/3. So if you're on this island for a year, you can imagine 1/3 of your life is going to be spent not just in fog, but typically in thick fog. Like, just imagine being the keeper of that lighthouse. Like, you're already secluded on an island off the mainland in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty small to begin with,
gotta
and
bring
there's
your Switch.
nothing on it. You'd have to bring all your video games, like tons of lotion, or someone to like
Ew, tons of lotion.
someone to mate with.
The air's already moist. That's why it's foggy.
Also, you don't need the lotion.
You don't need the lotion.
You could just be a dry guy, or I guess not dry, but
Your skin will be
moist. Yeah, that's just a weird image. Like, all these words are not working right now. So we'll keep moving on. But it's just really weird to picture trying to be this person that lives on this isolated place that's also tiny. You have to have your supplies brought to you, because obviously it's not going to be loaded up for the entire time you're there.
When the keeper swaps out, does the new keeper just bring the new supplies?
Well, the keepers, I mean, the first one didn't swap out for 7 years, and the second one didn't swap out for 20 years.
What?
So they live in this house. It is their life. They go to town, but like, imagine if your home was also your job,
So
and that was on this island.
It's not like firefighters where it's like, we work for 4 days, we go home for 3 days or whatever.
At least not initially, and I don't know how it's handled currently. Well, I know how it's handled currently. It's automated. But at the time, like, they just lived there, and they would go into town and perform different duties, and occasionally they called off the island. But that lighthouse running, it's their duty to make sure it's running 24/7.
All right.
So, very, very interesting stuff. You'd be on this island, you'd be isolated, and even during the day, when you may have this beautiful view of the ocean, 2/3 of those days, 1/3 of those days are spent in this thick fog where you either can't see beyond the shore, or you can't see beyond your front yard, depending on how thick it is. And I've been in fog where it's hard to see your hand in front of your face. Like, if you have fog that thick, it's suffocating. It sincerely is. And this is definitely a setting that could drive just about anyone mad. And I will say, from this point on, I'll go ahead and let you know that this could all be bullshit.
Okay.
So there are plenty of legends that surround the keepers of Seguin Island, and some that surround visitors. And I was able to actually find an official list of keepers throughout the years, and I can definitively state that all of the stories I'm about to tell you are absolutely not definitive and 100% unconfirmed.
All right.
That said, it is kind of hard to get an accurate accounting of the finances and ultimately the death of folks that lived like 235, 240 years ago. But hey, let's tell these tales anyways. It's just fun, you know?
Stories are just word of mouth things.
Sure. A dream
Legends.
is a wish your heart makes.
Okay.
The misfortune begins, supposedly, with the first keeper to take possession of the island. After a short stay on the island, 7 or 8 years, like I mentioned, it said that...
Oh, short stay. All right.
Well, I mean, compared to the next guy who stayed 3 times longer than that. But after a short stay on the island for, life, depending on how long you're going to live, 7 or 8 years is like a decade. It's a chunk of your life, but it's not the vast majority of your life. But it took its toll on this man. It said that he wound up losing all his money and nearly all his possessions due to financial burden while he was on the island.
What?
This even included his boat.
So, okay, that's strange because you live on this island. You don't have to do anything. You get paid to be there.
But you make shit, and you have to spend money on all the supplies you're bringing in, basically.
So, and no one pays you for those supplies?
No one would pay you to buy stuff from them. You pay them to buy stuff to bring to the
like
island.
the government.
No.
Or whoever hired you to do it.
Like, you were just in charge of taking care of yourself. They'd pay you to live there. They're basically paying you to be lazy your whole life and just make sure you maintain this thing. At least that's probably how it was looked at. But, like, the guy has a boat. It's probably docked on the island. And if any damage happens to it, he's completely liable for it. And he's not making good money. So it's either he can fix it with the abundance of resources of rock and some grass, or not at all. So he winds up losing most of his money, if not all of his money, most of his possessions, and his boat. It's said that he died in the lighthouse, sad, broke, and alone. Which
That's
is
so sad.
Absolutely as sad as it is unconfirmed.
Ugh.
I can confirm that the first keeper, according to the U.S. Coast Guard, was John Polaretsky. I hope I'm saying his name right. Who kept the lighthouse from 1796 to 1802, so 6 years. And 6 years seemed to be a short amount of time, but he was able to go broke and die. But hey,
what the French toast? This place sounds cursed.
A legend is a legend, so we're not sure if this actually happened or if this is just some of like the ghost stories that people tell. And if this was the case, Polaretsky would be known, or better known, I should say, to the island dwellers that would come later as, quote, Old Captain. It was the nickname given to the first ghost to haunt the island and the lighthouse. And it's said that Old Captain has it out for the keepers who have come to the island since him. And for those that have claimed to see Old Captain, the most frequent sighting of him is that of this old man in, I think they're called like oil rags. It's
weird.
Maybe not oil rags, like oil clothing. There's a weird term for it. I have it later in my script. But it's just like those really like gross looking, not necessarily gross now if you find these clothings now, but like the clothing back in the 70s was like brown, almost like burlap that had oil on it so that water would bead off of it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And he would be
like otter skin.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't normally skin otters, so I wouldn't know, and I've never got to hold one. It's one of the biggest regrets of my life. But that said, the most frequent sighting is this old man climbing the tower as if he were going to the top to check the light. So people see him ascending this tower quite frequently since the early 1800s till like present day. Time would, of course, go on after the first lighthouse keeper passed away, and things wouldn't exactly get better. In fact, by the mid-1800s, a new keeper would move to the island and bring his lovely wife with him.
This already sounds bad.
He wasn't the next one. He was just the one in the mid-1800s that took over. And the couple were said to be very much in love. And I'm sure everyone can imagine being alone with the person you love on an island. It could be like...
Does he murder her? Because a lot of alone time just sounds awful.
I was going to say, it could be kind of sexy. But let's not spoil stuff. I'm not jumping to the end of your story.
Oh, my Lanta. Okay.
The island itself, the lack of everything, the constant fog, it takes a toll. And they were together, but even together, they were isolated. Like, even together, they were lonely. And it wasn't long before the keeper's wife began to act dispassionate and distant. You could even say scattered, which is one of my favorite lines from Haunting of Hill House. As they describe the mom, as she slowly descends into madness, they mention she seems scattered. She began to slip into a depression that the lighthouse keeper was unable to shake her from. And I can only imagine being in that position, trying to help your significant other out of such a severe depression in such a bleak and dreary landscape. It's like your home is actively working against you, trying to help out your spouse, you know? The keeper wasn't going to let go easily, though, and he made arrangements to have something brought to the island, and that object was a piano, because his wife had always loved to play the piano, and for anyone who has ever moved a piano, imagine getting one to an island 2 miles off the shore, and then up a hill, like literally to the top of a hill made of rock, where your house is, because that would be a pain in the ass. But
is it a half piano or grand piano?
As far as I could tell, it was a grand piano. And he got it out there to cheer her up. And on some days, she refused to leave their bedroom, so he had it placed in there. And later the day he brought it out, he was wandering around the home, and the sound of the piano swept through the house. So she started playing it. And I can imagine that, like this wonderful feeling of hope in such a sad situation, all of a sudden hearing like sounds of life within the home.
But it's just Piano Man over and over and over again.
That's so funny. Just wait. So she had this piece of herself back, and he was overjoyed. And this next part, it's unknown why exactly this part took place, but there are two theories. What is known, though, supposedly, is that the keeper's wife started playing when she got the piano, and she never stopped. She played the same song over and over and over through the day and the night. The two theories are that she only had sheet music for one song and refused to get more sheet music when offered. The other is that she had no sheet music, but she had just chosen to play the same song over and over because her depression had slowly descended into madness, and she just became entranced by playing this same song over and over. And whatever the case was, she played day and night and day and night.
So she just played until she died.
She played for months. So I think the only time she would stop was probably to use the restroom, eat, and maybe sleep, and she probably slept barely at all. The sliver of hope that was in the keeper's heart obviously very quickly had turned to heartache as he realized something was very, very wrong. The isolation and hopelessness pressed against him, and the music just did not stop. I imagine he sat there day in, day out, and just ringing through his head was probably like, "Don't drop that dirk.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, don't drop that dirk.
I feel like so many people don't even know that meme anymore.
Google it. Or maybe like the opening to Mr. Sandman. You played that for me, that like 8-hour loop of the opening to Mr. Sandman.
Oh, just the opening, and it never gets to the good part.
Bum 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 bum.
It's
on
so
repeat
annoying.
for like 8 fucking hours. It'll drive anyone crazy. Whatever the song was, the keeper slowly descended into madness, and he did find himself a companion. It was an axe.
Oh, no.
And one night, the sound of the piano just rang through his head and grew louder and louder as he walked through the house towards their bedroom. And when he entered the room, he moved swiftly and he brought the axe down on the piano.
Oh, gosh, okay.
Over and over, he smashed the piano to bits. And then he took the axe to his wife.
God.
He was truly a man possessed, but apparently a man on a mission, and that mission was murder/suicide. It's said that after the murder of the piano and the murder of his wife, he then killed himself with the axe.
How?
This is the greatest part that you keep saying this stuff, because I put in this next line on my script, I know it's a horrific thing, but I'd like to remind you that it's totally unconfirmed. The reason I'm reminding you of that is because I can't help but picture someone trying to swing an axe at themselves, and it just keeps leaving bruises or like cuts, but not like deep enough to kill you because they can't get leverage. I have like this montage of them trying to figure out how to kill themselves with an axe.
There's an episode of Buffy.
Let me finish though.
No,
I have this picture of him balancing the axe upright on the ground and then slowly getting on the bed carefully and like jumping off like Macho Man Randy Savage from the top buckle. Oh my gosh. But right before he lands on this axe, just like falls down and he just lands on it uncomfortably. Like that's just the picture that ran through my head when I read this. Now you can tell me about Buffy.
Okay, so there's an episode of Buffy where Spike just is tied up in Xander's basement, and he's absolutely miserable. He's shrunk all his clothes, so he has to wear Xander's stupid, like, Aloha print shirt or something. He's just miserable. And so he tries to kill himself, and he puts the stake on, like, a coffee table or something, and, like, jumps off and tries to impale himself onto the stake, just breaks the coffee table instead. And
that's
it's just
the sort
so
of thing
ridiculous.
I'm totally picturing. Because it just seems like such a bizarre thing, and it's, of course, you know, a legend. It's not necessarily something that's documented. But however he supposedly did it, the isolation had taken its toll on yet another keeper. And since the mid-1800s through present day, sailors that pass by the island at various times throughout the year claim that when the seas are calm, you can hear the sound of a piano being played coming from the island. And it's said that the conditions for the sound to be heard the most frequently and the clearest are calm seas and very thick fog.
Wow.
Future keepers and visitors to the island claim to see a man holding an axe in various places around the house.
Shut the front door.
Just suddenly appearing.
No, there's not. That's
sometimes
freaky.
Raising the axe in the air before suddenly disappearing. This keeper wasn't the only one, by the way, to bring his family along. Others would follow, some bringing their children. And like any good horror movie or book in Maine, which are almost all written by Stephen King, bringing a kid along is just a recipe for disaster. Sure enough, one keeper brought his family, which included his little girl. And I'm actually shocked to report to you folks that no one has come up with a story of how this little girl supposedly died. It's just stated that she did pass away during her time on the island and is actually buried near the lighthouse. Not exactly known where, but that she's buried on the island near the lighthouse. And the little girl was quite the opposite of the previous story because she loved the island, she loved the house, and she definitely loved the lighthouse. And it's an island in the middle of nowhere, but I'm pretty sure she died because her ball rolled into the road at the same time a semi was coming and hauling ass down the road.
Are you talking about Pet Sematary?
Damn right, I put in my next line.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes dead's better. Or maybe she fell off the edge because there are like sharp edges to this island, or tripped going up some stairs, or fell from the lighthouse, or just got sick, or maybe died from happiness. Is that a thing that can happen to people? They're so happy they die. I don't know if anyone has ever had that happen, but who knows?
In the Netflix show, Marianne, the girl gets trapped in a deep freezer and dies.
You always take the fridge. You always take the doors off of your fridges or freezers. Everyone knows that.
What?
You weren't taught that as a kid?
No.
Because you can get trapped in there as a kid and you're not strong enough to get out. Like you could die in a refrigerator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why would you remove it?
If you discard a refrigerator or a freezer, you're supposed to take the door out so that doesn't happen to kids.
No, there's the school at the lighthouse at this place. There's a school at this lighthouse.
There's a lighthouse now in this show.
In the show, there's a lighthouse. The school's at this lighthouse. This kid's playing hide and seek with one of these girls. She climbs into the deep freezer. She's a little kid. And so this girl's looking for her. She doesn't realize she's in the deep freezer. And so this kid just dies in the deep freezer.
It's depressing. And maybe that's what happened here. Who knows? What is known, supposedly, is that since her
spoilers about Marianne if you haven't seen it, right?
Her untimely and tragic passing, folks on the island state they can hear the sound of a ball bouncing.
Ooh, that's scary.
In her old room upstairs, which was something that she frequently liked to do when playing. They also hear the sound of feet pitter-pattering throughout the house, along with the beautiful sound of disembodied child's laughter.
No.
I just imagine it in the dark, at the end of the hallway, the sound of footsteps running towards you and child's laughter getting louder. How do kids sound when they laugh? Sound like Mickey Mouse? Honestly, when I pictured this, I pictured at the end of one hallway and hearing a child laughing and, running towards me. I would probably slam the door, but if I didn't, I would do, the front heel kick just in case, it was an invisible child to, let it know, stop running around, it's nighttime. But something like that. They also say she can be seen...
Just be like, this is Sparta.
Exactly. They also say she can be seen running around the home, in particular up and down the stairs, which would be so annoying, and on the stairs of the lighthouse as well. And when she is seen, she sees you.
What?
And she waves very happily and smiles.
Thank goodness.
Which is really nice because she seemed just like a happy ghost. She was a happy human being when she was alive. It should be noted, no one lives here anymore. The lighthouse is absolutely still in operation, but the site was automated in 1985, around the same time Back to the Future came out, and I was born because 1985 was a badass year.
Oh my goodness.
A crew of workers came to the island to get the light and the horn set up to be automated moving forward so that someone wouldn't need to be on the island at all times, because it is operated and the light is on 24/7. And depending on where you research, some places state it was actually being decommissioned, but it was not. It was automated in 1985 per the Coast Guard. The process to automate a lighthouse takes some time, especially in 1985, and the workers hired to automate the lighthouse were also responsible for the removal of the furniture.
Wow.
Some of which have been present for quite some time.
I feel like that's cursed furniture. Don't take it home.
Rather than leave and come back every day while they work, the crew sailed a vessel there and then stayed until the work was done, which just makes sense.
Who died?
So once the automation... The thing is this story, this last story I'm telling you, by the way, it's the last story, spoiler alert, it's the most confirmed one because there are still people that are alive that state that this absolutely did happen.
I want to know.
So, they're on the island, and once the automation had been completed, it was then up to them to pack up all the furniture and get it loaded onto their boat. And they started on their second to last day loading up the furniture, and then it got dark, so they laid down for presumably their last night on the island.
Was it the last night for a lot of people?
Yes.
Like, period in life?
No.
Oh.
So the head of the crew woke up in the middle of the night to see an old man dressed in, here it is, oilskins. I wasn't wrong. Oilskins are the clothing that I was describing earlier, who looked super pissed off. And he was standing in his room, shaking his head angrily, clearly displeased. And the crew lead sat up startled and asked who the F he was and why he was in his room. And the man in the oilskins, who is presumably old captain, began to fade away. To just fade into nothingness. But before fading out completely, he was able to say two things. He told the crew lead not to take the furniture and to leave his home immediately. The next day, the head of the crew was like, "Yo, dogs.
Oh, God.
I saw this old-ass man last night, and he asked me to leave and not take his shit. It was scary, but F that guy. Let's get this stuff and get out of here."
So they took the furniture.
So they loaded up all the furniture, they got it onto the boat, but as they were attempting to lower their boat into the water to leave the island, a cable apparently that was used to stabilize the boat snapped. And the boat,
did it cut a bunch of people in half?
No, the boat fell. It's not fucking Ghost Ship. The boat fell into this choppy, rocky water and smashed onto the rocks that were being covered up by the waves because it was definitely not like a great place to have your boat. And it quickly began sinking because it was being smashed on the rocks from the waves. And within minutes, the boat was smashed against the coastline along with all the furniture on board.
Wow.
And it made short work of the boat and its contents. It scattered debris, or Deborah, as Canadians say.
No, they don't.
Dude, we just got done watching the episode of Letterkenny where he says Deborah instead of debris. Just saying. It was all over the coastline and the sea floor. So the crew, one way or the other, was not allowed to take that furniture off the island. And that last story, like I mentioned...
But it's in the water now.
Yeah, sure, it's in the water, but they didn't get it because it's destroyed and gone forever. So they didn't get it. So he said, please don't take it. They tried to take it. It was somehow mysteriously destroyed. And that last story was confirmed by the warrant officer who was in charge of the island's conversion, according to some website that I found that, I don't know, sounded good. It was typed well, so could still all be bullshit. Today they offer tours of the island for those who would like to go. The lighthouse is still in operation, like I mentioned. I will say it appears to be temporarily out of order due to a power cable problem. You seem to have a question?
I'm just, like, I hope nobody comes across any little bits of wood on the beach or something like that belongs to any of the furniture and takes it home.
Flotsam and jetsam. Isn't that what it technically would be once it's just debris in the ocean?
To me, those are just two eels from The Little Mermaid.
I mean, that's what they're named after, I'm pretty sure. Someone that's nautical can let me know how wrong I am. But I will say it being temporarily out of order means that they're going to update the tower itself. Rather than have an 1100 watt light on 24/7, they will be installing an LED light that will only turn on at night or in low visibility conditions.
Saves
which is
electricity.
It does, which is kind of funny because ships that routinely pass by were interviewed and they're like, it's going to be really bizarre seeing this light that's blue on the horizon, because LED lights are typically blue instead of white because of their light temperature or whatever. But they're like, eventually we'll get used to it, because they've seen a white light on the horizon here since the 1800s.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be a little bit odd.
It's going to be like ghost light.
Let's hope those renovations go well for all the people involved, because some things tend to not go well on this island. In addition to that, the island, which does not appear to have any trees at all, will be receiving a solar installation to power the entire island, because it's not going to be a lot besides the lighthouse, because no one lives there, which should hopefully solve the problem of having a power cable run out to it 2 miles off the shore.
Oh, cool.
So, although it is said to be super haunted, it was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1977, so it is definitely very historic and very protected, and still active, which is awesome.
Also very scary.
Very scary. I know I make a lot of claims on the show, but I will say this one sounds very interesting to me. I think it sounds like a challenge, so I propose, once it's up and running again, we reach out to the Seguin, however you say it, Island Light Station, and spend at least a month at this lighthouse.
Fuck that. Nope.
We'll even do story time and topic episodes on location.
No.
I think it'd be pretty awesome.
You're so
I
dumb.
think a lot of people would agree with that.
Get
so
outta here. You're so
let's
stupid.
make it happen. No Patreon goal at all.
No.
And that, my spooky friend,
You're so stupid.
is the Seguin Island Lighthouse.
You said that word like
so
7 different times.
I know. It was just
Oh my gosh. Okay.
so rough. All right. Before we move on into your topic, we are going to take a quick commercial break.
And we're back. So now that we're back, we're going to get into my topic, and it's pretty interesting. So the new Candyman movie, I don't know if it's like a remake. It seems like a remake to me.
It seems like a remake that's also connected to the original.
Right. Because
it looks like it's going to be his kid, a little bit in the trailer. Or he's somehow connected to the original Candyman.
I know he goes to that original bathroom in the original movie and things like that. And I think it's going to be based in the original building, too. But
it seems like he's investigating the first movie. So
right.
It's like one
like
of those remakes that
continuation.
it still acknowledges the continuity of the first one. So who knows?
All right. It's written by Jordan Peele. I think that's really cool. And coming...
The master of horror.
Yeah, it's coming out in a few months. I think like June 20th or something like that. It's coming out pretty soon. I mean, June's not that soon, but now that I'm older, months go by so fast and it's so scary. Like, school's almost over for the semester and it's freaking me out.
I still remember being like 7 years old and my uncle telling me, like, when you're older, a week goes by like a day and a month goes by like a week. And I was just like, yeah, whatever, old man. And now I'm 34, and I'm like, where did the time go?
Right? Like, this past weekend, I napped way too much and just wasted the days away, and I'm just, ugh. Anyway, okay, so this new movie looks absolutely terrifying. If you guys haven't watched the original Candyman, I think it's on HBO or something like that, or Netflix. You can watch it right now. Go do it if you have access to any of those services. I only just watched it a few months ago, like I was saying earlier. I think Adam was sleeping, and I was just like, oh, Candyman, I guess I'll watch it. I don't know, sounds scary. And it was definitely a messed up roller coaster ride of just fucked up things that happen in it, because I can't tell if he's real, or if he's not, or if he's magic or not. And
I mean, I'm pretty sure he's like real in the sense that he's a demon you summon by saying his name 5 times instead of 3.
I think it's 5, yeah.
It is definitely 5.
It's just so strange because weird things happen, but then it seems like he's a real person, you know?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like, he's not...
He just, like, gets summoned places.
Right, but okay, spoilers. Maybe I shouldn't spoil it. Anyway, just go watch the movie, okay? It's really weird. It's a huge, strange, lots of stuff, bloody, it's crazy. Bees. Lots of bees. What's an even bigger roller coaster ride is the idea that a creepy murderer comes through your bathroom mirror to slaughter you is based on true events.
I had no idea until you told me when you started researching your topic.
I had no idea either. I was absolutely mind blown when I was trying to look for a topic and I came across this and I was just like, that actually happened. And since the new Candyman movie is coming out, I was like, this is perfect timing to go over this topic because what? You know, like, holy crap. An article that was written by Steve Bagheera in a September 6, 1987 issue of the Chicago Reader goes in depth into this murder in the projects. And it's just so detailed and there's so much information in it. And it was just a really, really crazy thing to read. And if you guys want to, go ahead and read it because it's so long, but it's so worth it. It's really cool. The original movie, Candyman, is from 1992, and it has a scene in it where the characters learn that there may be a murderer coming into apartments through their medicine cabinets. And at one point, a couple of women pull a medicine cabinet out to peek into the apartment next door because it's supposed to be empty. Do you remember that part of the movie?
No, I've blocked all of this out.
So these women pull the medicine cabinet out and peek into the apartment next door because it's empty. In 1987, there was a murder that occurred using that very method. In 1987, Ruthie Mae McCoy was a 52-year-old woman living in a high-rise building near the south side of Chicago in a Chicago housing project known as ABLA. And she was somewhat of a paranoid person. She did suffer mental issues, things like that. At one point, she was telling someone on a van ride home from an outpatient psychiatric center that, quote, someone has threatened my life, end quote. And she had told a number of staff at the clinic about her fears, but that she didn't want anyone else involved. The unfortunate part of this, I think, is that she was telling these people who worked at a psychiatric center.
So they think it's just a symptom.
Yeah, so she's telling all these people that I'm in danger, you know, someone threatened my life, but these people worked around individuals that probably said these things on a daily basis. And I'm sure it's hard to take these things seriously when you hear it so often. So they took her home, and that's when she told the woman on the van about her fears. And that day, April 22nd, 1987, no one expected her not to join them at the clinic ever again. So they took her home, and then all this shit popped off, right? She lived at the end of the hall on the 11th floor of one of the 7 15-story high-rises. It's 15 stories high. It's a high-rise, all right? The building section area, I don't even know what you would call it, like the complex, was called Grace Abbott Homes, and it's 1440 West 13th Street. So it's very specific. The address is in there. Everything's in there in that article if you guys want to check it out. Apparently, these were some of the most dangerous buildings in ABLA. Not only were the neighborhoods themselves sketchy, but the buildings themselves were dark, the elevators were out of order pretty often, and the stairwells didn't even have lights in them, which is absolutely terrifying. How else would you walk through it? Are there like tiny windows that you can only see during the day? It's just so weird. And imagine having to live on the 15th floor and you have to walk up 15 flights of stairs in the dark. Fuck that.
I'm not imagining that. That's why I'm being quiet. I'm like shaking my head like, nope, not imagining any of this.
The buildings were full of drug addicts, not always the most trustworthy people. For someone who's already so paranoid, it must have been hell to live there. Like, she's already struggling with trying to trust people and be safe and things like that. And she's just surrounded by all these people that wouldn't think twice about doing bad shit to you. Around 8:45 p.m. that night, Chicago police received a call from McCoy. And it goes, quote, I'm a resident at 1440 West 13th Street, and some people next door are totally tearing this down, you know. End quote. The dispatcher then goes on to ask what it is that they're doing and if they're trying to break in. All the while, McCoy is a bit unintelligible. It's understandable considering she's panicking, thinking about the fact that she's about to be attacked. She eventually responds that yes, they're trying to break in and, quote, they throwed the cabinet down, end quote. From where, the dispatcher asks, she responds with, quote, I'm in the projects, I'm on the other side, you can reach my bathroom, they want to come through the bathroom, end quote. The dispatcher asks for the address, which is so annoying because the first thing that she tells them
was the address.
Is the address. Listen, you know what I mean? It's so annoying. McCoy then goes on to tell her, the address, apartment 1109, and that the elevator's working. And it's so unfortunate that this place that she lives in, she literally had to tell them whether or not the elevator was working. It just must have been torture living on the 11th floor. It's so crazy. The dispatcher continues, quote, 1109. All right, what's your name, ma'am? She tells her I'm Ruth McCoy. The dispatcher says she'll send the police. Or he'll, sorry, it was a dude. The dispatcher was a dude. Sends the police, but still isn't sure what it was that McCoy was trying to report. And I can totally see confusion because she's panicking. She's just telling them, this is happening, but not exactly, there are people that are breaking into my place. You need to send somebody for help because she's just stressing out. You know what I mean? If someone told me that, quote, they throwed the cabinet down, end quote, or they want to come through the bathroom, you don't automatically think someone's breaking in. When someone's trying to come through the bathroom, to me, I think
it sounds like something's happening in the home from someone who lives in the home.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. And throwing the cabinet down, I think kitchen cabinet. I don't think cabinet in the bathroom or anything like that. So it's I can totally understand the confusion. I didn't even know that the medicine cabinet things could come out at all. I don't even know if ours can come out. Do you know? I have no clue.
I just imagine, they cut a hole in the drywall so that you can put this, cabinet that sits within the drywall, that empty space.
Yeah.
And if the building is built cheap enough, then it's, all that's between you and the next building is, I don't know, an inch of drywall.
Yeah.
That is just so easy to get through. So that is kind of terrifying to think about.
So the dispatch closes the call and then sends a beat cop there for a disturbance with a neighbor. That's what he sends the cop there for. He never mentioned anything about a break-in because she never said anything about a break-in. And that led people to believe that that's why the police just took their time to get there. They're like, domestic dispute, whatever. At 9:02 p.m., another 911 call comes in from a neighbor concerning apartment 1109. And the woman on the call reports that she just walked through the hallway and heard gunshots coming from the apartment. And then at 9:04, 2 minutes later, another neighbor calls about gunshots coming from 1109. And this resulted in 2 more cars being sent to the scene. And they get to the apartment at 9:10. So McCoy calls at 8:45. Cops don't get there till 9:10.
25 minutes later.
That's insane.
I'm shocked it was that fast, to be honest, because it's if it's on the south side of Chicago in the projects, I was expecting you to say she waited for hours.
What?
I legitimately was expecting you to say she waited for hours.
That's so long.
I know.
Oh my goodness. So at 9:10, they're at her door, they're knocking, they're pounding on the door and announcing hey, it's the police. No one answers, so they ask dispatch to call McCoy again. And the officer tells dispatch, quote, we think somebody may be in there holding somebody, end quote. And they just listen to the phone ringing inside. So dispatch is calling, the phone's ringing inside, but no one's picking up. And a couple officers went to the project office, so the housing office, which was a block away, in order to grab a key for 1109. And they get the key, but the key doesn't fit to the apartment door. So they can't open the freaking door. And by this point, I'm if this were another area of town, maybe a suburb or something like that, they would have kicked the door in by now.
It's just kick the goddamn door in.
Yeah, they could have just kicked the door in. And it's just so
just
annoying.
Going through the medicine cabinet on the other side, it's supposed to be really easy.
Why would they go all the way to this other building to get a key to get in? Why? That's such a waste of time. Maybe it's
a security door. I mean, it's not a good area, so maybe it's a very secure door that you can't kick down.
Well, I'll get there. So these officers are sitting there wondering what they got to do, what they should do. They start talking to neighbors who provide them with little to no additional info. The next door apartment was vacant, and they didn't hear anything coming from inside. All they knew was that an elderly woman lived in 1109. Now, I'm just going to put this out there, but that's hella offensive because 52 years old is not elderly.
Several listeners right now are just like, hell yeah, that's not elderly. Fudge
It's
them.
like, it's older maybe, but elderly, it's not elderly. Like, why would you say, oh yeah, elderly lady lives there? She's 52.
She's not even in the AARP yet. I'm pretty sure that minimum age is
No,
55.
I think 50.
So.
Is it 55?
Pretty sure it's 55.
Oh man. Okay, I thought it was 50.
You're almost there, don't worry.
What the fuck? Anyway, one of the other neighbors did say that McCoy always answered her door, and one of the officers relayed that to dispatch and hesitantly added that, quote, there's no answer, so I don't know, maybe she answered to the wrong person or what. That's, end quote. So that's absolutely, confusing for me because this police officer's like, she probably answered the door to the wrong person and got attacked. Why is the door locked, and why aren't you kicking down the door if that's what you think?
If you're thinking she's dead, then you should clearly be entering the home. By the way, it is 50. Someone that was like, yeah, is now yelling like, damn it, Adam, you fucked that up. So,
oh, yeah, AARP.
It's 50.
So police continued to try to figure out what to do. They called that housing office again, but the janitor there said that there was no other key. So police gave up around 9:48 and then left the area.
That's over an hour later they left?
No, I mean, 9:48, that's only 38 minutes. They were there for...
She called at like 8:45.
Yeah.
So since this all started, it's been over an hour, and now it's like, oh, the key didn't work. Maybe she's dead, who knows, and they're leaving.
They just leave, yeah.
Wow.
So the next night, police are called by a Deborah Lastly, another neighbor on the 11th floor of McCoy's building, and she reports that McCoy normally stops by her apartment when she's leaving every morning and stops by her apartment when she gets back in the afternoon. But that day, she didn't see her at all. She was worried because she saw police surrounding her apartment the night before, which is so nice that a neighbor sees this person every day and they're like, dude, I didn't see her. Something's wrong. After this call, they dispatch a fairly okay number of people. It's half a dozen officers, so 6 cops and like 4 or 5 security guards. And they go back to 1109. This time, officers want to break the door down, but neighbors reported that security told them not to. And I bet it was something like they didn't want to have to pay for the damages.
That's exactly what it was.
Or something like that. Or maybe out of fear of being sued or something like that. You know what I mean? And then the police just left. So once the security's like, nah, don't kick it in. So
Why
the police leave.
Okay, if it was supposed to be a disturbance with the neighbors and there were gunshots, knock on the doors of the places next to it.
They
like
did.
It's 1109, like knock on 1108 and 1110 and try and go into those like apartments and see if anyone heard anything, and then you'd find the apartment that they got in through.
But they didn't hear anything, so they're not going to break down the door.
Well, I'm just saying if you knock and someone answers or the door is open, like someone clearly got in, so something had to have happened.
They asked all the neighbors, they went around, asked all the neighbors, didn't really get any information. The one next to that apartment was empty. No one answered. They're not going to kick down the door for no reason.
I mean, I would. I'm just saying, but keep going.
Then that woman, Deborah, calls again. She calls not the police this time. She goes to the project office, so the housing office, the next day. And then the office official takes a carpenter to 1109 to drill through the lock. So instead of damaging the whole door frame and all that stuff, they're like, just drill through the lock. We'll get a new lock, whatever, right? What they found was totally awful. They walked in to find McCoy in her bedroom on her side in a pool of her own blood. There were papers, magazines, and coins scattered everywhere. The room already smelled like rotting flesh because it's been 2 days. 2 whole days. She'd been shot 4 times, 1 through the left shoulder, 1 through the right side of her abdomen, and 1 through the liver. The last one went through her right upper arm and went through her chest and severed her pulmonary vein, and that's the one that killed her.
Oh my God.
According to Dr. Yubel Choi, who performed the autopsy, she probably didn't die right away because she died of internal bleeding, and she probably didn't last very long. Like, it's just like she laid there, suffered for a little while, you know what I mean? And according to Choi, she probably wouldn't have survived if they'd gotten her to the hospital right away anyway. Still, how long it took them to find her or check on her is absolutely mind-boggling.
It's totally tragic.
It's so sad. And I feel like cops should have just kicked down the door, you know? Like, what are you going to do? You have a call for a disturbance. No one's answering. Something's wrong. Ugh, it's just so annoying. Detectives think that the reason McCoy was killed was for her Social Security money. She was seen buying a few new things for herself, nothing too fancy. It was like a winter coat and stuff for around the house, like basic amenities. And people around the area noticed because this is an area where people don't have a lot of money. People don't spend on stuff like that. And there were even letters written to her from other people, like from churches, different religions, soliciting her for money. So it's just so weird that she gets a little bit of money from her Social Security check, and then everyone's just like, we want that money.
Yeah, we want a piece of that.
Her murder wasn't even covered in the news for very long. It was very short-lived. People in that area were murdered or beat to death on a daily basis. And it's like 2 days after her body was found, 4-year-old man was beat to death by a group of people who were never caught, which happened only 2 blocks away from where she lived. And then 3 days after that, 25-year-old woman was stabbed by another resident of that same building that she lived in just outside that building. So it just seems like a really brutal place to live, and people around there, I'm sure, were like, oh, another person died, big whoop. You know, it's so sad. News outlets tried to raise the question of how police could just walk away from the 911 call like that, but news editors want what will make them money, and this just wasn't something that would catch on because murder happens all the time in Chicago at the time, you know? It's just sad how many people just became desensitized to it. According to this article, a lot of 911 calls were hoaxes, and they just had to choose what they wanted to do. So either it was real or not, but a lot of them were hoaxes, apparently. I don't know. What made McCoy's case one that stuck out a little more was that detectives determined that the killers entered her apartment through her medicine cabinet. And what happened was that they took the cabinet off of the adjacent apartment, and I assume it was the vacant one. They broke through McCoy's cabinet and then climbed through the wall. So there's like, say there's drywall, empty space, drywall. So they climbed through that empty space to the other side. And though it may be strange to some, apparently residents of those high-rises weren't necessarily surprised, which is insane to me. Break-ins via medicine cabinets were happening all year that year. Supposedly, you could go from apartment to apartment through these cabinets. If you were small enough, you could even go vertically into the apartments above or below.
Wow.
So, what the fuck? The only thing securing these medicine cabinets into the walls were a few nails. And you could totally just push those out. You know what I mean? Just push the cabinet out. What the fuck? According to Bagheera, even gangsters would link like couple apartments, so they'd get apartments next to each other, and then use the medicine cabinets as an escape route. So if police raided one apartment, you just climb through into the other apartment. Like, okay, it's a little bit genius. But like...
I guess genius is a word you could use for that.
I would have never thought of that, you know what I mean? But I don't do criminal activity, so who knows? One of the other residents in the building, who lived on the 5th floor, claims that when watching TV one evening with a friend, she saw a figure dart from her bathroom and race out the front door. She went to see what was going on in the bathroom as she heard a second intruder, and she came across a 13-year-old boy trying to crawl through her medicine cabinet too. And the boy, I guess she caught both of them, but the boys confessed that they climbed up the pipes from the vacant apartment below. And after this whole thing happened, she began to tie the bathroom door shut at night and piled furniture in front of the door before going to bed each night. She even had she was like, we're going to fill buckets of water. That's your bathroom for the night because no one's going into the bathroom.
Wow.
That's how scary that this whole being able to climb through the walls thing is. That's terrifying. When authorities came to look into McCoy's bathroom, you could see the pipes that the intruders wiggled through and the opening into the bathroom next door, which was vacant. They took the cabinet in 1108, the vacant apartment next door, as evidence, but they never found McCoy's cabinet. So they don't even know if she had it installed when the break-in happened. Her daughter, Vernita, reported that someone had broken in just the year before through the medicine cabinet, but no one ever came to fix the cabinet.
Wow.
According to the housing office, though, there's no such reports. So it's like, who's telling the truth here?
Yeah, I think we know who's telling the truth.
Lots of blame went around as to who was at fault, but in the end, it really is just a sad situation. Everyone's going to say, like, it was your fault, you should have done this. It was your fault, you should have done this.
In the meantime, they don't catch the people who actually murdered her.
No one knows. They said they did arrest a couple people, but I don't know if they actually went to jail for it or not, or what. It's unfortunate that these bathroom break-ins were so common in these areas and buildings. It was so easy because if your apartment shared like the same wall as anyone at like your bathroom butted up against each other, you would share the same medicine cabinet. That's just how they built it. And they built them that way so that if the janitor had to come in and check on the pipes, all they had to do was pull the medicine cabinet off and get to the pipes behind the wall. So you can't really blame the architect for designing it that way.
I still blame the architect for that. Yeah, easy access to check out the pipes is not worth someone's safety.
They just really didn't think about that. They didn't think that people are fucking terrible pieces of shit.
They didn't care, is what it came down to. It's like they sold the contract to the cheapest bidder, who was like, let's just stack drywall on top of each other, basically like a house of cards with a few layers of concrete for the floors, and then who gives a shit about the walls? I'm not going to live here, and that's exactly what they did there.
It's so sad. Even someone who was as paranoid as McCoy, who made sure to lock her doors at night and made sure she would walk around and like twist other people's doorknobs to see if their doors were unlocked, and she would like lecture them about your doors should be locked, don't leave your doors unlocked. But that obviously didn't keep her safe in the end, which is super sad. So think about that next time you want to stand in front of the mirror and say Candyman 5 times.
Wow.
You never know. It's just so crazy that this movie is just like kind of inspired by something that actually happened. And I think that's why that movie is also based in like the projects.
It absolutely is. It totally makes sense.
So
I wish there was a scene where someone was trying to break through in the walls through the medicine cabinet while someone was saying Candyman 5 times.
That would be so scary.
And he showed up in between the room or in between the walls to just murder the people trying to break in. Just so I could feel better about the fact that this actually happened.
That would be so
life.
Scary, dude.
So, dang, that was intense as F.
Yeah,
so.
I like true crime. It's really interesting, and the fact that it kind of mixes with a movie that's coming out soon is even better.
You did a great job of covering it.
Thanks. I think that article that was written, Steve Bagura, he did a good job. Like, so good. It was very well written.
Right on. Well, good job with that topic, even though I am slightly traumatized now in multiple ways. So, good stuff. For anyone who would like to send us a story, whether or not it's about the topics we just did, or it's just some sort of like spooky, haunting, coincidental, paranormal, true crime, whatever it is, you can email us at storytime@scaryish.com. You can also go to scaryish.com, which is our website, and click on Contact Us, or hit up any of our social medias. You can also join our Discord by going to scaryish.com. Scroll down on the right-hand side is a link to all of our social medias. Find the Discord one and click on it, and you can join in. We have so many channels, and there's so much chat. It is always so much fun. So much.
I love all the memes.
Oh, yeah, the meme channel is great. There's multiple meme channels now, too. It's a really fun time. We hope you join that part of the community, or you can join the Scary Spooky Friends group on Facebook. It's really wonderful to see how active the community is and how hilarious all you guys are. So thank you so much to everyone who supports us, and we hope you reach out to us so we can read your stories on the Storytime episodes. Robin, for the folks who would like to donate to us monetarily, how can they do so?
We do have a Patreon, so you can go to patreon.com/scaryish podcast. There's a whole bunch of different tiers. We've gotten so many new patrons this past month, and We thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And if you go to ko-fi.com/Scaryish podcast, those are one-time donations. All those donations go to helping us upgrade our studio setup. And we've been able to grow, and it's so great because we can't do any of this stuff without you guys. And you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Indeed. So I think that's just about everything we have for episode 118. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be on, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, we're going to be on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m., so please tune in, and we will see you then. Otherwise, we will be back on Friday when the new Storytime episode comes out. Either way, Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.